today I get to introduce you to an amazing man, a man that is already affected. That's affected with an A, my entire life in a health standpoint, mentally and emotionally. Excited to have you here, Dr. Thomas Bige, the one of the co-founders of Reboot Self Care Center. Dr. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm excited today because we're going to get to know you a little bit, and then we're also going to be talking about the topic of diabetes. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Where were you born? Where'd you come from? I know you've traveled the world, but just give us a short clip of that journey so far.
Sure. I born in Hungary back in when the dinosaurs lived. My journey was quite challenging. When I was 4, I got in the wheelchair. I had a disease I inherited from my late father, who was a prisoner of war in Siberia. And till the age of 8, I was in a wheelchair until a smart doctor able to help me. Challenging those who's telling I'm not worth at the hospital bed because some kids have a chance, I don't. This man was a doctor who studied Oriental medicine during the Second World War, and seen a chance to help me out with the Chinese, Ayurvedic, and Japanese medicine knowledge. I stayed with him for 7.5 years, learning what he could give me, and then entered in a college to learn how to do herb farming, and how to produce herbal supplements, also animal husbandry, because he believed he gave me everything he know, and now I have to go and learn from animals. Until that period, I went and studied medicine. I have 3 medical degrees: general practice, emergency medicine, and surgery. I forced into the army, as all of us need to spend some time in the communist regime. And after 6 years, I escaped from the country because in 1978 I won an international award with my research work and explanation theory on diabetes. The United Nations gave me an award and invited me to join an expedition in British Columbia to check on why Eskimos on the North British Columbia area getting diabetes who never seen a biscuit in their life. I couldn't pass that offer, and I managed to walk through 2 kilometers of landmine called the Iron Curtain between Hungary and Austria. I did had a problem with that because the army and the country sent me to that because I managed to take a submachine gun with me with 4 magazines to protect myself if the boys find me when I'm walking. Anyway, after I joined the Medicine Sans Frontiers, the Doctors Without Borders, and teaching third world countries, doctors, young doctors who are coming out of the uni to do air rescue, medical air rescue, and flying doctor services. That helped me to learn a lot, because in the third world countries, not many medical facilities, not many hospitals, and most of the time we're out on the land, out on the outback, need to use a lot of things what the natives or the locals using, and that teach me real medicine. Uh, After 14 years and working in 14 countries, I had enough from jumping out of choppers. I resigned, but I'm not resigned on research work. I keep doing research for the WHO, specializing on proving the scientific valuation of herbal medicine and the alternative medical procedures, like acupuncture in 1998. We managed to make the governments accept, the medical board accept as a medical procedure. That's why these days the health funds covering acupuncture, for example, and Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine and all the others. It's I learned a lot from them. I done some research in Pune University and get the postgraduate in Ayurvedic medicine. I was a delegate in China, spending 6 months there, and I get the postgraduate in Chinese medicine. Last 27 years, I'm working as a integrated alternative medicine physician. Had a large resort, 650 acres resort in Australia, with 6 clinics supporting the resort, and we're doing a lot of procedures combining mainstream with alternative medicine. The choice today to talk on the diabetes, it comes from, as I mentioned, my studies on proving what causing diabetes and how you can treat it. That happened in 1978, and these days they're starting to get the idea, and the functional medicine practitioners, even in mainstream, starting to follow the procedure I prescribed back in 1978.
Well, this excites me to be able to talk about diabetes because I know quite a few people who suffer, and suffer is probably the only way to describe it on many different levels. But if I could start, what is diabetes?
Diabetes is a big tag what doctors give you when you have problem with sugar level. And as you said, people suffering, and the main problem they sort of taught into there's nothing cure diabetes. So the rest of your life you have to take your medication and be a good boy or girl and follow the instructions. It's not true. It's first of all, as I mentioned, I got a international award by bringing up the theory of diabetes caused by liver gold dysfunction, which creating a pancreatitis in the pancreas, which then shuts down the production of insulin, or affecting the production of insulin. This theory is not broken since. There is, it's 40 something years, 45 years, sorry. It's on, and now they digging into it because the epidemic of diabetes is just conquered the world. Some 45 years ago, 40 years ago. 40 years ago, I had the chance to do some research work in Samoa Island, which is a Pacific island for Polynesian boys and girls. And the tradition is if a woman is not 200 pounds is not good enough to carry a child. It's huge people, like really, really huge. They eat a kilo of span every morning just to get up, and that was the main reason why I went there, to see how those huge people can live and what their problems. Diabetes in 1984 was not a issue in Samoa.
Wow.
We did not even look at it. Now, Samoa 80% diabetic, and 60% of the children born with diabetes, diabetic mellitus 1. That's a absolutely crazy proof of what's happening, because that 20% which is not diabetic are the people who called primitive, who still go out in the morning fishing and eat vegetables and fish as a staple diet. That gives you the information on really. And back to the Eskimo expedition in 1980. The reason why the Eskimos get the diabetes, who never seen a biscuit or a piece of bread in their life, because it's introduced to alcohol. Alcohol hits the liver get malfunction, that produce the bile, which is supposed to be arriving in the pancreas as an alkaline substance. It arrives as a acid, and it hurting the pancreatic enzymes. The brain keep challenging the pancreas to produce more, because the small intestine not receiving it, and that causes a inflammatory process, which then forcing the pancreas to shut down the production of insulin or reducing it. And that's all.
What are some of the symptoms that people go through?
Well, the number one symptom is tiredness, is fatigue. It's getting up in the morning with a cloudy head, having problem with the kidneys, drinking more water and still keep thirsty. It's in headaches, and of course the on a severe cases, you can pass out on the street, like or because it's too much or because it's too little. If you're injecting more than you should, or you changing your diet, for example, a mango can pass out a diabetic, because it's very high in sugar. Fruit juice is a big no-no for any diabetic, because it carries so much sugar, their liver just can't handle it. It's people saying, oh, it's a healthy food to eat, drink fruit juice, freshly juiced fruit is good for you. Well, think again. When you ate 6 oranges in 10 seconds, but you can drink it. It's been proven back many years ago. It's a glass of orange juice, freshly juiced, not constituted, not commercially produced, but freshly juiced orange juice, 150 ml, which is around 5 ounce. It's equals with a double scotch. Would you give that to your daughter or son first thing in the morning?
No.
Double scotch.
No.
Or 375 ml of beer. Either way, it's would be really eye-opening to anyone if a child first thing in the morning throw down double scotch.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a rough start to a child's day.
That's why the ADD and the ADHD and the some of the autistic problems is the kids these days bombarded with carbohydrate, complex and concentrated carbohydrates, which then are forcing the pancreas to produce enormous amount of amylase. It's a pancreatic enzyme, a carbohydrate breaking enzyme. It's not sugar what causes diabetes, but of course it's contributing on to producing the effect of or the symptoms of diabetes.
And that was actually my next question: is what is the root cause?
Well, that is and okay, that is depending on what diabetic, because it's three known diabetes: the diabetes 1, diabetes 2, and the gastinal. When the pregnant mother gets diabetes to the length of the pregnancy. Most of them coming out, soon as drop the baby, in a week or 2 or 3, it's the diabetes stops. And that's what gives the clue what's happening in the system. It's not sugar what makes diabetes. It's mainly a combination of toxic or pathogenic infection, overdose, which causing liver malfunction, combined with any type of stress. It's could be an accident, could be someone died in the family, or divorce, or whatever, which is a trauma combined with toxic overload. And I have many proof to as a testimonial to the diabetic problems. Even first class athlete can get diabetes in a month.
Oh my goodness!
Even they working 16 hours. Like I had a tennis coach, a famous tennis coach, 32 years old, 8 hours on the court, another 8 hours activity, and took mates home after a drinking night, and they had an accident. The two mates died. He was diabetic in a month.
So that leads me to kind of the harsher side of diabetes. What are some of the risk factors and complications when it comes to having one of those three types of diabetes?
Well, the diabetes 1, which is they call it juvenile diabetes, but it's not necessarily juvenile. Most of comes out around the younger years and the early teenies. Diabetic 2 is called the adult diabetes. Unfortunately, it's not true again, because I had many cases, youngsters as young as 14 starts diabetic 2 symptoms. And the third, the gestational diabetes, it's again, as I mentioned, and I believe it, liver dysfunction, overworked liver, gallbladder problem. That gallbladder problem is mean fat metabolism. It breaks down, and some kind of or chronic or extreme stress, which is initiate the start, the kind of lockdown. The risk factors, absolutely number one is toxic overload. Number two, it's I call and I believe probably supposed to be number one is yeast infection. Yeast with a mold is a very nasty thing. In my opinion, that's the number one death causing effect on the human race, on the Western society. And because I have documented proof on that is only affecting the Western society. In developing countries, you hardly find diabetic except like the Samoans who's turned from a fishing layback society to a couch potato TV watching span eating society, because soon as doesn't matter how big you are, doesn't matter how much you eat, it depends on how much you move. Those people who's had an accident, for example, a broken leg, for example, can end up being diabetic if they had pre-diabetic conditions, because they, from a physically active person, become sedentary, and that will break the glass. Of course, pregnancy, the body, the female body is a beautiful system, very delicate to be able to carry a child, but suffering from the second-class citizen syndrome, I call it, when the brain decide the little fellow in the womb is more important than the mommy. And a rigid system, a system which is lack of flexibility, can't handle it. That's why you're getting a gestational diabetes. It's the flexibility of the body to control or still able to function properly, even something's growing in there. That I cannot emphasize enough, because I'm very keen on pregnancy preparation. What we supposed to be like is not a luxury, that is a necessity these days on the Western world, because we're getting extreme high infertility rate. We have extreme high loss of child, stillbirth, and all kind of problems through the pregnancy. And the pregnancy is supposed to be a happy time. I seeing less and less pregnant woman who's really happy because the internal problems.
Wow. So let's move on to prevention and then natural solutions, because I think they kind of go hand in hand. We've got to be doing something to prevent this. We've got to be doing something more natural so that we can get away from just all the prescribed stuff. So what do you feel about prevention and natural solutions?
First, I would like to explain the medical way to treat diabetes. It's an extreme, what's the word of, financially rewarding way about pharmaceuticals treating diabetes, and in a way, and that's what created the disease, which is the third killer on the world. A few years back, like 15 years ago, that was the sixth. 50 years ago, that was a upcoming problem. That's why I studied it in Hungary, doing my PhD on, because it's an upcoming problem, which could be a big problem if people not take it seriously. I'm talking about the end of 70s. That was a kind of, yeah, it's crawling into the society. Why? And my first eye-opener, because I was an air ambulance surgeon, a lot of times up in the air with the countryside, I'm seeing people on the countryside not getting diabetes. It's a town seekers problem. Like in the town, in larger towns, it's starting to getting into the general practitioner's office. And why the country guys don't have it, and what they eat, it's even in the 70s point of view, that was a nasty food because it's full of fat, and you know, they're eating every day the same thing. It's meat and a lot of bread, and how come they not getting diabetic? And the city slickers falling in by dozens. And that's why I started to watch out. In the countryside, people move. They have to earn their money by moving their butt, whatever they do. In the city, it's a lot of office workers who sit for 8-10 hours in the backside, not moving, not detoxing, because movement is detoxifying. And they're getting sicker and sicker. Children who have to walk a mile or at least push the bike to get to school. They never had ADD and ADHD, and autism was not known in the 70s, 80s. It's becoming a huge problem. The 21st century, because kids spend more time with the computer game than running after balls or mucking around with friends. That's where the problem's coming. Just like I'm comparing with the ADD and ADHD, because that's the biggest problem in the young generation. Adult, for the same reason, get diabetes. The cocoa pox and a glass of orange juice for breakfast, and then more carbs and pasta and what's it called here? It's mac
and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Yes.
Yeah. People laughing on them because I thought it comes from McDonald's. That's why it's Mac. And the cheese is where is the pasta in there? Where is it? It's not named. Okay, I'm here only 2 years, and in Australia there is no mac and cheese. Where they say mac and cheese, which is a McDonald's with extra cheese.
I feel so bad for Australia. They need mac and cheese.
All right.
It's my absolute, and I can't eat it right now, but it is. It's one of the best foods ever.
Because you grow up with it, man.
I just need.
Yeah.
I need them to make healthy mac and cheese. So I'm gonna need you to donate like 20 years to that.
Well, it's easy. It's easy. It's nothing wrong, guys, to have here and there. Not every day, because that's the problem. Here and there, I have pizza with the absolute pleasure. But I do something. Like if I eat a pizza, I go and play pickleball. And I'm 70. You know? It's simple. If you go out to the countryside and talk to a farmer, it's those guys eat as much carb as possible because they need energy to work, to physically able to get to 6 p.m. without exhausted. There's nothing wrong with it. But take the measure. Two slices of bread, you can work out in 30 minutes. But you need to work it out, otherwise it turns to fat or a kind of sugar fat, which is stored in the liver. And then when you need it, it's turned to sugar to support the muscles to move. But if you don't use it, first of all, it's overload the liver, because to making sugar out of fat is a real job. Like the Houston Liver Lab, they was super excited about finally able to do a liver lab. In 1998, it cost $4.2 million to make a lab what does everything what the liver does. But in a lab, it took 14 hours to turn fat to sugar. Oh, sorry, sugar to fat. Apologize. Sugar to fat. And the liver does it in a minute, 2, 3.
Oh, wow.
It's our liver. It's a very expensive equipment. Does about 600 actions in every minute. It's consume your whole blood 20 times a minute. 20 times a minute, your whole blood goes through your liver to supposed to be detoxified, supposed to take the toxins out, supposed to normalize the what's in going from the liver to the kidney. It is a big job, man. And then whatever rubbish left in the blood, and the kidney is supposed to filter it. Because if rubbish stays in the blood and hits the lung, that's a big problem. That reducing the capacity of the lung to able to produce oxygen from air. And then the next step, of course, the left ventricle of the heart. If anything, any rubbish staying in that one, and that causing cardiovascular malfunctions.
It sounds like if we don't get a grip on what we're consuming, that we're going to keep getting what we're getting and keep going down that wrong path. I'm super interested in knowing, and I'm glad that you have an event coming up. I can't wait to tell the people about that. But what are just some of those natural solutions? We don't have a lot of time, but I want to be able to hit that of what are some of those natural solutions that we can be doing out here.
Okay, how much time we have? Because I have plenty to say.
We've got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay,
Yes.
then I have to prioritize the really number ones and number twos. Okay, number one, guys. It's it's my all-time favorite to spread the word in this part of the world. Eating organ meat. It's one of the healthiest thing, if not the healthiest thing you can eat. That's been proven all over since 1908, when that researchers find the relation between eating organ meat with reducing tension in the body, and it's not just diabetes, it's everything else. And in China, there is a book called the Yellow Empire Archive, Medical Archive, goes back to 4,500 years, which notes if you have problem with the organ, eat a healthy animal's organ. In our circuit, there is a good old saying: when someone looks not understanding something, you say, "I go and eat some brain, man." It is yes, organ meat, absolutely number one in my book. Number two is exercise, because as I said, like being a professional sportsman, I eat like horse in the time when I'm doing my pentathlon. I have a gold medal in pentathlon. When I coming out from the wheelchair, I eat 56 eggs every week for 6 years. That's why I know there's nothing wrong to eat egg, and I protect egg to my last drop of blood. It is the best protein on the planet. And then coming to those little smarties, like having cinnamon with when you eat carbohydrate. I do that, and I have a whole story about it. It's like 100% sure. Cinnamon, it's save you to having save a problem. Dangerous problem with diabetes. And then the other things is herbs, which is when you're eating it or taking it in combination, it becomes a super protecting. Is not take you off from leg operation, but definitely protect you to get to there. It's the liver herbs, the dandelion, the milk thistle, the artichoke. It's a lot of things, and like protecting your gut from the inflammations. What again takes the liver to the point when it can't produce alkaline bile, and that's the bottom line.
It sounds like there's quite a few natural solutions, and I'm sure there's many others.
I can use the whole half an hour to do that. It's so many. Like every part of the world they use different because they customize differently.
Yeah.
Like the Norwegians don't eat banana powder. The islanders dry green banana and make it a powder and give it to people who's suffering from diabetic symptoms.
Wow. So with so much information to go over, I want to encourage everyone over at Reboot Self Care Center on the 25th of this month, on May 25th. Their address is 3101 Southwest College Road, Unit 204. That's right here in Ocala, 34474. I want to encourage you, reach out to Reboot Self Care Center and just connect. If you have any question about diabetes, if you have any concern, or maybe there's people in your family that just need better information or a more natural way to find some potential relief, I want to encourage you to check them out. Dr. Thomas Bige, thank you so much for coming in today and just giving us a little bit of you. I love hearing your stories. I mean, we could talk for days. So this won't be our last show. I know that. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time.